For more on this, Xavier Abu Eid joins us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. He's a political scientist and the former communication advisor to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Xavier, thanks for being with us. So just want to talk about the latest news today, Donald Trump's announcement of the peace board and the meeting of the group of Palestinian technocrats in Cairo. As we're hearing from Mohammed there, our correspondent, saying that it's all good news, but intent is not implementation. Would you agree with that statement?
Thank you, Isabel. I think that many people may be hopeful with the news that something is moving ahead, but on the ground, we haven't had a ceasefire being implemented. On the contrary, Isabel, I think we need to look into the context and the legal basis for this word of peace, which is UN Security Council Resolution 2803. And this Security Council resolution is extremely problematic because it doesn't even set a framework that will lead to ending the Israeli occupation, doesn't even mention the occupied West Bank, doesn't talk about a Palestinian state, if not as a conditional aspiration of the Palestinian people, not even a right. So in other words, if everything works well, it's going to work on the side of the humanitarian perspectives of what's happening in Gaza. So they have separated completely the political path on one side from the humanitarian area on the other side. And I think that they could be perfectly linked in order to move from the genocide we have had in Gaza to a political solution and the Israeli occupation. This is precisely what the US and Israel are trying to prevent.
Because I just want to talk a little bit about the situation on the ground. It remains incredibly dire in Gaza. I mean, civilians continue to be killed by Israeli forces, babies dying from the cold, people trying to survive in tents in the cold of winter. Is it your view that this so-called board of peace is going to put an end to any of that?
We may say, first of all, that there has been a tremendous work from mediators from Turkey, from Qatar, from Egypt, trying their best to make the situation improve. And if it wasn't for them, perhaps we couldn't even have the prospect of a solution at this stage. But at the same time, we should not forget what has been the role of the US throughout all this period. And Isabel, just let's talk about one number. I mean, I'm certain that if over 400 Israelis have been killed after the signature of the ceasefire agreement, no one would be talking now about a phase two or about any sort of diplomatic success. But it's Palestinians that have been killed every day by Israeli occupation forces, as your correspondent in Gaza was presenting, a third of them children, including today. So in other words, as far as Palestinians are not considered to be human beings that are equal to the rest of the world and that, of course, have the right to self-determination, not to be conditioned, but a sacred right under international law, I don't think that there will be the prospects for a political solution that will prevent situations like what we have now. And just last point, Isabel, on the issue of justice. You know, we're talking about all of these elements of reconstruction, board of peace. What about accountability for a genocide that took place? Over 20,000 children killed in Gaza. Like, everyone forgot about this. So it looks like a bit as an effort by the US to prevent any sort of accountability on Israel and to take public opinion into a different direction.
Donald Trump says that Hamas must surrender its weapons and dismantle its tunnel network. Do you think that A, Hamas will do that, and B, if they do that, will things improve on the ground for Palestinians as Donald Trump says they will?
I think Hamas has accepted the terms of the agreement that includes the disarmament of Hamas, or at least what they refer to as heavy weaponry. And I think that the right parties to deal with this issue are, in this case, the trio I already mentioned, particularly Turkey, but also Qatar and Egypt. They are all in conversations with Hamas. But once again, the security track that it's talking about, disarmament, should be tied to the political track. Where are we moving ahead? How are we going to move ahead? Are we at this stage setting two parallel Palestinian interim governments, one in the West Bank and the Palestinian Authority, and one in Gaza, this so-called board of peace? Are we moving into fragmenting Palestine, legitimizing the fragmentation, having Gaza totally separated from the rest of Palestine? Or are we going to make use of this of the opportunity we have of international attention in order to set the basis for a political solution that involves ending the Israeli occupation. I think that's a question that should move ahead beyond the issue of security arrangements within this agreement.
Xavier Abu Eid, political scientist and former communication advisor for the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Thank you so much for your time.